I wrote an article yesterday on Black History Month. And one of the things that I find is that because we're not a homogeneous group, Africans,
not
right?
at all.
Black people, actually, we're not.
At all.
Some of us learned about African history in school. And I understand that a significant amount did not. So they are kind of coming to terms with some of these stories and empires and great people now. I get that, right? But when you listen to people talk, you would think that they talk about an African unity.
Yes.
As if before colonialism, we were one group of people.
I've been arguing this for a long
and we did kumbaya with each other.
Yes.
We were fighting each other, right? We were fighting wars with each other. Hamlets against hamlets.
Yes.
Right? Tribes against tribes, right?
My grandfather died from such wars.
Yeah.
See, the man called Bani.
Yeah.
That's my son.
Yeah.
Died from injuries from this war.
Exactly. Yeah. So when people say, Africans are going to get into a unity, and I say, okay, when has that happened before? Can we have a reference point?
Exactly.
Because for you to suddenly say, Africans are going to be united as one, and I've had this conversation with people, and I say, so what do you mean by African unity? Oh, we're going to have one continent, one president, one leader, one currency, one language. And I say, really? Even now in the different countries, they cannot agree. And you're talking of the whole continent with thousands and thousands of tribes, So I think, again, it's part of the disinformation out there.
Yeah.
This idea that somehow we are one homogeneous group, or we can make ourselves simply by talking about it.
Yeah. See, that's something that I've tried to lead some people to look at it. You see, Africa is so diverse. I use the word Africa is diverse to let them understand that what they are thinking about is fairy tales.
Yeah.
It's fairy tales. See, and what they don't understand is this. If young Africans are so ignorant of Africa, of the diversity of Africa and the history of Africa, do you know who are not that ignorant? Our colonial masters, China, Russia, Japan. They know how diverse Africa is, and they know how much we're fighting ourselves before we're colonized. So if young Africans at this time in the 21st century are so clueless of their history, that gives those guys, those people who think are enemies, all the ammunition to conquer us again.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if you don't know your continent, you're actually giving them all the ammunition. They can tell you anything and you believe.
Yes.
And that's exactly what is going on online.
Yes. And the thing about it is, which brings me to another favorite topic in Africa, is all about populism.
Yeah.
And populism has taken hold in Africa because populism creates an enemy for you, and also creates some rationale for you to be a victim of some sort.
Yeah.
And that drives you. So the idea is that for some reason, if not for these people, we will be united as one. Yeah. It's these people that are stopping us from being united. And if we can get ourselves back to this united Africa, then, we will start to make progress. But when you begin to ask people, the people that are pushing this idea, what is a united Africa? What will it look like in practical terms? You see, I come back to this thing, right? Because many years ago, I was telling someone, right, that if you open an office somewhere and you put all the white papers, the communiques, all these things from all these conferences and all this talk about Africa, you'll fill a whole building with it, right? Let's stop all this blue sky thinking, right? Let's start to talk about how we turn these ideas into practical text, right?
Yeah.
So that we can start to get some people out of the room who simply don't have a clue, right? So that we stop listening to people that will just whip up sentiment and walk away and will not be able to give us practical solution. We need to ask ourselves, what does a united Africa mean? Let's forget the populist agenda. Let's forget this emotional, roller coaster we get on about our enemies, about how we can be great, about how, let's talk about what does that mean when we say united Africa? What are we looking for? What would that look like? And what is the example of this united Africa that we talk about, right? And to me, that's just the issue here, right? So when people are saying that they want united Africa, like you said, they do not understand some of the nuances of this continent we reside in, right? And they get themselves so worked up, right, about how anybody that doesn't understand is an enemy. Anybody that doesn't buy into that idea is an enemy.
That's what gets me laughing sometimes.
Yeah, you're an enemy of progress if you do not buy into this idea that somehow there's a renaissance coming on where Africa will be united. We are going to be a powerful force, and that is great. But let's talk about what does that look like, because we will not get to, if you don't know what it looks like, how can you know when you get there?
That's it.
How do you know you are there if you don't know what it looks like? So let's talk about what it will look like. And then we can say, okay, is it possible? Is it practical? Is it achievable? Is it a 100-year journey that we need to start now? But let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
They don't see, unfortunately, they don't understand that Europe we see today, they have been on a 2,000-year journey. Middle East we see today has been on a 5,000-year journey. That's it. As people who know each other and has been fighting one another for that long. Most of us do not know the next group that lived 100 kilometers from our village. We didn't know that they existed at all. So, see, telling people about this annoys a lot of people because it seems you are saying we are so backward. And it annoys people. Anyway, let's leave that.
I think one of the things that annoys them, right, and is that, again, it comes down to this short term. People, again, because there's a lot of sentiment, there's a lot of emotional capital that they invested in this.
Yeah.
That people think that when you then want to sit them down to have an intellectual, rational conversation about what is it that you mean, they get upset because a lot of them have not, in my view, and I may be totally wrong, a lot of people have not given a lot of thought to what does this mean when you say something, right? Because it's easy to say something and move on.
Yeah.
When people challenge you to say, what is it you're talking about? And the other thing, again, I think is important that we should mention is that we are now awash with experts.
Everywhere.
I mean, it's amazing. They are experts. And why are there so many experts? Because when there's a crisis, people see opportunity.
Yeah.
So now you see a lot of experts on Africa, and everything they generate whips up emotion.
Yeah.
Without necessarily being backed by intellectual conversation.
Yeah.
They whip up emotion.
And that's something that, I mean, oh God. See, Shola, let's leave this matter for now.
We can go on and on, right?
Anyway, see,